Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Civivi Savant, a brand new offering from Civivi that is absolutely available right now. I'll link it right down below so you guys can check it out. It does help my channel when you use my links, but that's entirely up to you. Thanks so much to Civivi for sending this in for me to take a look at. Thanks so much to my patrons for supporting me, and please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Let's go ahead and get a measurement. Overall length of the Savant is coming in at about 7.85 inches overall. Blade length is 3.5 inches, pretty good. Cutting edge is exactly 3.25. Let's go ahead and do just a few size comparisons up against the Ontario Rat Model 1. And if I can keep my hands on it, the Ontario Rat Model 2. So it's not perfectly in between, but it is definitely, like kind of an in-between length. How about we put it up against the Demco AD 20.5? There we go. How about up against the Spyderco Para 3? What am I doing? And last but not least, let's put it up against the Benchmade Bug Out. I think that's a good size comparison. It is a little bit longer than the Bug Out, but it does kind of make me think of it. How's the action on this guy? The action's pretty good. This is another steel frame lock. Civivi is, for some reason, doing a lot of steel frame locks right now. Yeah, it works. It's pretty easy to disengage. It has a typical Civivi detent. There is no, it's not assisted if you're new to the knife world. It's just a manual knife running on bearings. The flipper tab gets pretty, it's a pretty low profile flipper tab. So if you're wanting to disengage it with one finger, you can just barely get the sharpening choil to catch your finger before you turn it and slide it this way, but you have to be real close, right? Otherwise that blade's coming down and poking you in the fingernail, which is not always ideal. It's okay. It's not a double clutch. It's pretty much exactly what you'd expect from Civivi. Par for the course. Good enough. How about carry profile? Thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. It's pretty thin. Definitely thinner than the Para 3. It's also nice and thin this way. Length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. You can see here it's about the same overall length as a Para 3. It's just nowhere near as tall. So this is going to be a nice, compact, and still basically full-size knife profile, Let's go ahead and take a look at the inside. It's a steel frame lock. I don't believe they've done any additional milling. No. They've cut out slots for the wood. In this case, they do have another version of this in just black G10. If you don't like wood and black, which I truthfully barf, I don't like it. But the black G10 and the stone-washed blade, you do have that option if you want. And then they also have a Damascus one. Weight. We are looking at, in this case, wood, steel for the blade, of course, 14C 28N steel for the blade. And again, no internal milling. 3.32 ounces of weight for 3.5 inches of blade. Pretty good ratios. Can't argue with that too much. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. I'll get out my tools. As per usual, my tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. We have a T8 pivot, and we also have a T8 body screw. Most likely, yeah, you can see right here where the standoff connects, and right here, there's going to be another screw underneath this overlay. I'm going to guess those are T8. They might be T6. You also have T6 screws for the pocket clip. Whatever the size are of those hidden screws, it's not that big of a deal. It's still fairly minimal hardware. Not perfectly minimal, but should be easy enough to take apart as long as you have quality tools and a place to put your hardware. Let's go ahead and measure the blade stock thickness. I'm going to guess this is Civivi's standard of 115 thousandths. Come on, let's wake up calipers. Here we go. 115 thousandths there. So that's about what I expected. Okay, do we have everything done? I think so. So this is another really straight looking Civivi, but it's got its own styling, right? I kind of like, they did this with another knife, that one that they tried to charge over $100 for. What the heck were they thinking? I have no idea. But they did do this other, sort of similar, kind of where they have this line here and then they have this overlay that sort of covers, the other 70% or the other 60% of the knife. And I think it looks good. It looks stylish. This is a thinner profile. and we have a more narrow blade. The blade is fully flat ground and absolutely has a thin cutting edge. They're doing great with their geometry. They sharpen their blades incredibly well. In fact, anybody who's got a Civivi here recently, their edges are insane, right? Like, it's just by geometry alone, this thing is going to cut and cut and cut. Really, really good. Otherwise, ergonomics are okay. The pocket clip, this is one of those newer ones that doesn't have the holes in it. Kind of like that. It's a 2-hole clip. You can replace it with Civivi's Popsicle titanium clip, which is honestly a lot better. It still has the bill on it, which is kind of barfy, but what are you going to do? They really like those goose bill clips, right? Ergonomically, it's like holding on to a long rectangle. It's fine. It's not anything incredible, but you know, it's one of those, you got to ask yourself, like, how hard am I going to use this knife? You know, how comfortable do my hands need to be? When I think about ergonomics that need to be really comfortable, I'm thinking about using the knife for an extended period of time, right? This is the type of knife that I feel like you get out and make a quick cut or two and then you put it away. And, you know, if you are having to squeeze on it and if it's uncomfortable, it will probably only be uncomfortable for a little bit. So, that being said, ergonomics are, they're nothing special, but then again, they don't really need to be. If you plan on using a knife for an extended period of time, I might look at something else. Their Praxis is definitely better in the ergonomic department. In fact, they probably have like 50 choices. I'll make sure, and you know, the link for this guy, you should be able to go to the same retailer and just type in Civivi and look at everything that they've got. If you're new to the Civivi line, they have a ton of knives. Plenty of access, moving on, plenty of access to the lock bar there, and they have milled it a little bit, which is nice. I like that. It looks really good. This is a stylish looking knife, and if you really like wood, then great, right? But if you get the G10 one, I think that one looks even better. It's very minimal. It is very sort of office EDC, or I hate this term, but gentleman's EDC, right? However you want to call it. It looks like an accessory, something that is, you know, it's an accessory to your style. It's kind of one of those things, especially if you get the black G10 and the stonewashed one, it'll go with pretty much anything. And you know, it's utilitarian. It's gonna function. It's gonna do what you need it to do, which is make a quick cut. The flipping action, like I said, is good. Blade geometry is just, you know, it's just really great. It's just more of the same type of greatness. It's a slightly different shape than what we've seen from Civivi. The entire knife is just a slightly different shape than what we've seen from Civivi, right? Every now and then, you know, for people like, why do you review these if they're just slightly different? Because every now and then they do something slightly different and it's a game changer, right? So I still want to look at this stuff, you know, no matter what your reasoning is for watching. But yeah, like I said, no swedge or anything like that. The edges are knocked down, so this is not sharp up here, but completely and totally flat ground. A nice taper out to a very thin tip, so I don't think it, you know, we don't need a knife professional to tell us that this is not a hard use geometry, right? You don't need me to tell you that. You don't need anybody to tell you that. This is meant for light poking, and I would say light to medium cutting. But there is plenty of blade, so if you do need to cut into dense material, you have enough handle to hang on to, and definitely enough blade and the right geometry of blade to make short work of most things, unless you are trying to cut rebar in half, in which case that is stupid. I don't know how you got into that position, but don't be in that position. There is a little tiny bit, like you can choke up with one knuckle right here. You have to be cognizant of where your finger is. Don't try to do this because you're definitely going to get sliced right there. You want to be about here. And the jimping is going to complement that position well. It's also pretty easy to get your finger up on the blade and do this type of movement, right? So really, you know, however you're going to hold it, it is fairly comfortable. It's the hammer grip that is the least comfortable, and it's because the profile is just straight. They have their, you know, typical Capsule Corp, Civivi logo right there on the pivot. Looks fine. I don't have an issue with that. We do have a mounting position for left-handed carry. Sorry, the camera's really concerned with the texturing back here today, probably because of the wood and the black. But we do have a lefty, mounting position. If you are left-handed, I am right-handed, and you can see here that this is plenty easy to manipulate. I don't have a problem at all, but it is a right-handed frame lock, so just keep that in mind. Where's the lanyard hole? It doesn't need one because Civivi is smart enough to keep that big stupid hole off the blade and put a lanyard bar here so that lanyard people can still hang their dingly-danglies off the butt end of this knife. But because there is no lanyard hole on this narrow profile, they could, mount the clip optimally, which it is. And it's going to carry pretty darn deep. Not that it needs to carry deep, but it carries, it's satisfactory where it's carrying. The screws are recessed, the clip is not, that's okay. Smooth in and out of the pocket. On the G10 version, I'm guessing it's peel ply textured, so over time it will probably fray up your pants a little bit. This wood is very smooth, no big issue. The problem with the bill here, it's not a big deal. This clip, honestly, I'd still give it a B or a B minus, like I've always said. But these clips that go whoop, and stick out like that, it's like they're trying to grab onto everything that you walk by. You're just substantially more likely to get this hooked onto something and have it bend out or break off. Not that it's a horribly expensive thing to replace anyway, and if that does happen, well, there you go. You've got an excuse to buy the titanium one. The titanium one is nowhere near as bill-shaped. It's way less likely to grab onto something, and even if it does, it's titanium, and it is much more forgiving than stamped-out steel. So there you go. I spit on the knife. Sorry about that. The stop pin is located in its traditional spot right here. There's one here. And then honestly, I think, yeah, it actually has it. This is the closed position stop pin. So there you go. Like I said, running on bearings, no blade play, up, down, left, or right, no lock stick, no pivot lash, very smooth and consistent in here. This will just get better over time, and a nice clicky detent with perfect centering. More of the same from Civivi, slightly different, more stylish, this or that. It's stuff like this that I look at and go, hey, why don't you take some chances on something and make something weird? Civivi can definitely make a good budget EDC knife, right? We'll talk about the precedent here in just a second. When I see this stuff, I'm like, yeah, great, this works. It's gonna be fine, right? Somebody who's brand new to the knife world, if they're looking for like the newest Civivi, they find out about Civivi and they're like, oh, I heard Civivi makes really good stuff. What's the newest thing that they make? Oh, I see they have roughly, 10 to 40 knives that look about like this. Maybe this one will specifically attract that person. But it just feels like a throwaway design at this point, because it's like, they figured out the formula for a really good EDC knife, and now they're just manufacturing slight variants of it. This is fine. And if this is working for Civivi, who am I to tell them to stop doing it? I mean, people like us in this, we got to remember, in this corner of the knife world, we do not represent the majority. We are the upturned nose enthusiasts, right? If you're like me, where we pick apart every last little detail and we talk about trends and blah, 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 right? If this is working for Civivi, who am I to tell them to stop? But for the love of God, would you try something different? Make a, just make a crazy knife. Make a folding scythe, right? Make a folding boat anchor. Make something where the blade shape looks like an octopus. Even if it makes no sense, make something different. Just to, I don't know, just to break it up a little bit. It doesn't have to be that crazy, but it would be really cool to see something a little bit different. This knife comes in at base at $72.50. This one that you're looking at here is about $75. On this channel, anything $75 or less is what I consider a budget knife. You might consider $20 a budget knife, $50, whatever. You can think of whatever you want. On this channel, anything under $75 is a budget knife. So while this particular variant is right on the line, the black G10 one and the, with the stonewash blade at $72.50, that's a budget knife. This is gonna go on my cheap knives I like playlist. I'm having a hard time putting it in my recommended knives playlist because it's just like, there's a bajillion knives out there that are doing the exact same thing. And honestly, this is on the higher end. Civivi is doing this thing right now where they're like, hey, it's a steel frame lock. Wow, what a big deal. And then they charge extra money for it. That's not a special thing. If you're new to the knife world, a steel frame lock is not a special thing. This is roughly a $60 knife masquerading as a $72 knife. I know that that's not really that big of a difference, but this is a nice knife. Like, I don't want to take away from this. The blade geometry, the handle profile, the way that the detent's tuned, all of this, right? It's great. And if you had asked me, 4, 5, 6 years ago, I would have been like, holy crap, this is the best thing that's ever been made. The problem is they figured that out and they made a bajillion of these. They figured out the formula and made so many of them that it's really hard to appreciate this, right? So, do I think everybody should rush out and buy this? No. I think you have way too many choices. Is it a good knife if you decide to buy it? Yeah, absolutely. It's really cool. That's really all I have to say about it. It's just, I'm waiting for Civivi to do something crazy. If Civivi does something crazy, I think the best move Civivi could make right now, because we are all I love Civivi, and a lot of us we love you guys, right? I don't want to speak for everybody, but I feel like we like Civivi, right? Civivi, do something weird. Do something crazy, right? Even if it polarizes the community, do something weird. Please. This is boring. These are great knives, but it's boring. That's all I have to say. Thanks for the free knives. It's fine, right? This is likely a knife that I'll end up giving away on a live stream. So make sure that you are subscribed so you don't miss out on that. Once again, this knife is available. Please check it out down in the description. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do of course have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.